Welcome to Color Me Psychic. Thank you so much for calling in today. Where are you calling in from?
From Missouri.
Awesome. What question do you find yourself asking over and over again that you want to explore today?
Right now, my biggest question is how can I get unstuck? Um, I I guess more specifically, why am I feeling super overwhelmed when I am thinking of doing some kind of special projects I have in mind um, as a therapist for some warm community connection, safe places for some of, community members, my clients, and there's a need in our community for safe, warm community connection places. And so I have an idea, I have a plan, I have the skills to build that, but I am overwhelmed and stuck.
Yeah, I am so excited to dive in and explore this question with you today.
Yeah.
I want you to think of that kind of overwhelmed, stuck feeling that you get when you think about this really meaningful, community driven project that you are working on and have a vision for. And where in your body, we'll have you do a body scan, where in your body makes the most noise, or do you feel the strongest sensation?
So as I was explaining or asking the question and now doing the body scan, kind of my stomach, um, it's like swirling and anxious. Um, I say anxious, it's the feeling attached to anxious, but I don't know if it's completely anxious, but there's that kind of moving around, kind of a warm burning sensation in my stomach.
I love those words. A warm, burning sensation that's moving and swirling.
Yeah.
Anything else that you would use to describe it?
It feels soft but heavy.
Good awareness. Would you say then you would classify it as like feeling down, upset, or off, or more like expansive and light and airy, or maybe a combination of both?
I think it feels more heavy. It feels like a warning. That's the thoughts that are coming up with it. Like it feels like a warning.
Okay, I love that. Really good awareness. So I want you to take that warning or that feeling of a warning, and that's in your stomach, and
Mhm.
using any shape and color you want, color it out onto a piece of paper and let me know when it feels complete. Okay, so as you were coloring and as we were talking during the coloring break, you noticed that you were having a lot of internal dialogue. And what we decided, because typically when someone has a lot of internal dialogue and is kind of going back and forth with, and it kind of feels like, do I color and follow my intuition, or do I need to be more logical with this? A lot of time that's just an indicator that we need to color multiple pages. So I was able to lead you through coloring 2 pages. And this is the first page that you colored. This one specifically represented the question, why am I feeling stuck, overwhelmed, and sad? It was in your stomach. There's a lot of swirling and moving and a warm and a burning. It felt both soft and heavy, but when you tapped into it more, you're like, it definitely feels more heavy and more like a warning. So as you sat down to color this out, talk us through what you colored first and then kind of the process to create what you drew.
So, yeah, I was kind of stuck between do I color the sensation or do I try to kind of wait until an image comes up? Um, and so that's, of course, that conversation we had. So, coloring the sensation, really just concentrating on that like swirling, warm, burning sensation. I was trying to imagine, like, if I were to open my stomach, what would that look like in there? Um, and I was imagining kind of this fuzzy, kind of orange, warm glow, almost fuzzy, as in like a fabric or a textile texture,
Okay.
like a real super light fuzz, but the feeling felt heavy.
Mhm.
Um, And then kind of those little X's or the little stars that were in there were kind of representing the kind of that warm sensation, but I guess more of like a crackling, I guess. Um, Not super loud, but almost like I don't know how to explain, like stardust. That's the only
Mm,
way my brain can say that.
love
But so
it.
that's what that was kind of representing, like in that warm fuzziness, in that like, and not warm in a pleasant way. It's like a burning warm.
Hmm.
Um, so I was kind of trying to get that out on paper and how that felt. I felt like it needed to be a little more of a deeper color to represent what it felt inside, and I was trying to get that deeper color. And then as I was doing that and just kind of leaning into paying attention to that sensation, I had said that I kind of feel like there's a warning, like that feeling feels like a warning.
Hmm.
Um, and so that little image of like this warning sign popped up in my head of this kind of bright yellow, like flashing, like warning something. I just don't know what.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's where that little triangle came from on the bottom was kind of that as I sat with that sensation, I kind of almost like the signal going to my head was warning, warning, warning.
Hmm.
And so that's what that little triangle was.
Awesome. I love this. Let's go ahead and start with the first thing that you colored.
Mhm.
I loved how you talked about how it felt very textured and like a fabric and a warmth and a crackling and stardust, and love all of those descriptors. It definitely gives us some more information as we're gonna dive into what it represents. So definitely take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Obviously, you are the person who has this experience and has all of the context behind your question, and I do not. So let's, I'll just tell you what I'm observing and what I'm seeing, and
Great.
then we can dive in a little bit more if you'd like. So with this big circular, textured, deep and complex shape and color, it really represents being fixated and annoyed, of like, man, there's this like other big thing and it's going to be a lot of work and it's going to require a lot of time and attention, and there's a lot of uncertainty around it. But here's what's really interesting. So when we see the color orange, typically it could represent that you're mirroring someone else's emotions. Specifically, for this, it's more of like you're mirroring other people's relationship or how they approach and deal with uncertainty. So this specifically is all about uncertainty about what you're capable of. So second guessing, like, I don't know if I can handle this. There's a lot of like using old ways to motivate yourself too. So kind of using it as um, like, I guess spite would be a good word. So like doing things out of spite to prove that you can like prove other people wrong and that you can do it. But really just like this inner sense and inner sort of wisdom of like, hey, I don't want to do this particular project that is so meaningful and community driven through that sort of like energy per se. um, and wanting to find a new approach and wanting to come from a place that is really secure and sure, and goes is like the opposite of what's been modeled to you of about like doing big ambitious things, um, that you feel called to do. But it's like what you've been modeled is people second guess themselves and they kind of use that as a way to like let themselves off the hook and not do it. But I think you're seeing that there's so much of your vision that kind of needs to be created and the impact that it can have, and you have like the bigger vision for it, that it's like your body basically saying like, hey, we need to address like the foundation of this, of like where one year you have all the skills and know-how, and if you don't, like, you know how to figure it out, and you're open to having other people help you. Like it doesn't have to be all on you. Um, and that you can do it in a more playful, fun, creative way. A lot of the X's and the stars too. So X's, whenever we see them, it's typically just typically an indicator of shame. And because they are orange, it's like other people's shame of like, I am bad. So this is just, again, another layer of I have this beautiful, amazing dream and I can see the impact that it could have, but I can't do it because fundamentally, like I'm bad. But just know that that's like not 100% yours, that is really just been modeled to you as a way to kind of let yourself off the hook of doing like really cool, big, incredible things.
Ouch. And um yes, the after I graduated, passed my licensing exam, sat in my office on the first day or probably the first week and had my first supervision with my license supervisor, that was the feeling I had was I don't know it all. How
Mm.
am I supposed to be good at this? I don't know what I'm doing. Like, who let me be a therapist? Who let me graduate? Who let me like something was wrong on that test. I did not pass that test. I don't have the information. How am I supposed to do this in real life?
Yeah,
Even though I had been doing it in my practicum placement and I was doing it well.
yeah,
Um, but that like as I was doing my practicum, I kept thinking, oh, I'm learning. I'm in school. I'm learning this stuff. I'm learning this stuff and then felt ill-equipped. But my supervisor that first day said, you're not supposed to know everything. Going through school was to help you solidify the ways in which you can give your knowledge to other people and you know where to get the knowledge. If you don't know it, you now have all the resources to find the answer for them. So, like, that was life changing for me. And when you like that coming out of this like yeah I don't think I have the skill like who am I who allowed me to do this and it is other people's way of yeah like exactly like hey I have this amazing idea oh well what about this and what about this and this could go wrong and this could go wrong and this could go wrong and you have to think about this bad thing happening um and not having that support of like no like I trust that you have all the things in your brain. And I internally, logically, I can tell myself that, but that internal message is still there of who the hell let me graduate? Who is letting me be a therapist right now? What
yeah.
kind of audacity do I have?
I love that. I love your awareness. And once we give our brain just the small, little, consistent actions that, hey, this is working, we are capable, we are working towards this. Every day doesn't have to be feel like a mountain, like we've climbed a mountain. It could just be like, hey, we went. Maybe some days we'll go 1 foot. Maybe some days we'll go 100 feet. Maybe some days we'll go several miles. But um, it's just like the small, consistent action that's going to help give the evidence to our brain that like, wow, I can do this.
Right, right.
You know this. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, 100%. But it's so funny how we innately know this, but because our brain just wants to keep us safe and alive. I mean, literally, our brain just wants to keep us alive at the end of the
yes.
day. And the way that it keeps us alive is to keep us in situations and circumstances that it can predict. Because if it knows how to function and operate in those experiences and anything new, it has to learn how to operate in those situations. And sometimes it can be just metabolically taxing. Like we're going to be more tired. We're going to be probably a little bit more grouchy. We're going to have to change our routines and our priorities. And that's hard shit.
Yeah,
And that's also kind of what's interesting about that is like that's what the warning triangle at the bottom of it was basically just saying that. It's like you're going to have to create like doing something this big, it's going to create more changes. You're going to maybe have to shift around your priorities and create like a new normal and learn new skills and meet other people and put yourself out there. And it's going to be a lot. So it's kind of like your body saying, if you're truly wanting to do this, we're going to have to make some changes. And I mean, it's like little changes too. It's like making sure you're getting enough rest, like making sure that you're nourishing your body, whatever that looks like for you, right? Whether that's like making sure you just fill your cup so that you can continue to fill the cups of others.
Yes.
The triangle too, it's like a lot of um, kind of an uncertainty around like your ability to fulfill this. It's exactly what you were saying of like who let me be a therapist too. So there's like this like who's giving me permission to create this community center. And then also the red stars in there, it's more of like I don't want to disappoint the community members
Mm.
by what I create. It's like you want to throw like the biggest party, like just to have the most inclusive, welcoming, magical place. And there's this little kind of voice in your head that's like, what if no one shows up? It's like a kid who throws a birthday party and no one shows up. It's like that kind of feeling, which is like the worst feeling
Yes.
in the world. And so it's like this fear of disappointment and of that disappointment because by what's represented by the green outline. So anytime there's like a border or an outline of a shape, that just means it's what we're using to feel like we're in more control. And
Mm.
as a way to kind of wade through the uncertainty. So for this, it's more of like that disappointment of like, hey, I don't want to disappoint anyone, so I'm just like not going to do it so that they have nothing to be disappointed of. There's obviously a line of like you'll be disappointed in yourself,
That
but you're
that.
like, I'd be okay disappointing myself, but I don't want to disappoint everyone else.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then, yeah,
Yeah, that's you said the words right out of my mouth.
your
Like,
coloring
yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah. So that disappointment when you were saying that, yeah, that is a big, and it's not from trauma history, from, mama trauma
Yeah, yeah,
of those, that constant, it had all or nothing, the disappointment from, even if it takes a little bit to build. Yes, I do want the biggest party. I want people to come and be comfortable immediately. And logically, I know that that takes some time. Nobody knows me here. Like, um, I think that's a little of the hesitation too. I'm new in this community. Um, there's some deep, like, I don't want to take the limelight away from anybody else wanting to do this. Like, I would love to collaborate, but I don't want to get in there and somebody say, "Well, I'm already doing that," and you get out of the way. But yeah, that disappointment and knowing that I can grow something and it doesn't have to be big immediately. It's not all or nothing. This is growing from small, you know. I can plan for big, but if it starts out small, that's not disappointment, that's not failure, that is still moving forward.
100%. It's really cool that you said that too, because it's like, what if you just did like community hours and rented a room in the library type of a thing and saw like the type of people that came and did more like market research of what are people really looking for.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
just small little things that you can do. And that's like the best like advice, like your internal wisdom of like, just do the small stuff and then the big stuff will eventually come,
Right.
which is so cool. I think too, what's funny is the red lines around the triangle. So those are basically just like the annoyance of like how disruptive it's going to feel like to your routines and your comfort zone. But the interesting thing about that is like it doesn't have to be. It can just be a natural extension of the work you are already doing. And so even just, I think the biggest thing here is more of, is there a way that you can reframe it? Or it goes back to like the big circle, the first shape you drew, where it's like, is there a way that you can reframe it? So instead of feeling really heavy or really big and ambitious, you can have it come from a space of like really playful and curious. Like, what would it look like?
Curious.
What what would be fun for me to like test out, like what is a hypothesis or theory that you could test out this month with the community and with people, and what are some things that you could do? Because truly, if it's meant to be, it's going to go fast, but you don't have to force that timeline. And you have a lot to say around like what that timeline looks like too.
Right, right.
The last thing too, there's like a glowing around the triangle, and that just is more of like uh just insecurity and not wanting to trust your inner wisdom, but truly like all of your experiences in your career and as a mom and as a therapist and as a student and as a daughter and all of the things, like you have so much inner wisdom to where it's just like you just like relax into that and it will like guide you. So that's kind of like the big warning there.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect reminder. Like when we first started talking and I said, I'm just kind of letting the universe guide me.
Yeah.
That's that reminder that, yeah, I do have that wisdom in me. Otherwise, I would not have been guided. People wouldn't have seen what was already inside of me. And it's always like that reminder that I have to see what other people see.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think the barrier to that is it's difficult to believe that people who have no obligation to love me are telling the truth about those things when somebody who has an obligation to love me can't see those things, refuses to see those things, will not, like, does not believe that I have that in me.
Isn't that so wild?
Right. When opposite, like I say that now, I say it out loud, and it's like if I was a client sitting in my office, I'd be like, well, yeah, those people don't have an obligation and they still trust you and see you and believe in your innate wisdom and intuition. And so, yeah. So I also work with internal family system stuff.
Awesome.
And so, yeah, it's for sure one of those parts that's probably 10, 10 to 13 in there that's saying this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just all of our past experiences when we're getting ready to do something big. I feel like all of the our brain just pulls all the data around why it won't work.
Right, right.
Why we should not do it, because if we do it, there's a chance that we are not going to be alive. It's going to be too
Yes.
taxing and too wild. But yeah, it's great to be able to have that awareness and to speak to it, because I feel like once we're able to label it, we're able to speak to it, we can just remind our brain like, hey, we're safe. We got it. Like you know all of the, even when talking to you before we hit record, like you were talking about how there was a point in your life where you hit burnout. And so now that you know what burnout feels like, you have that data to be like to not even go there anymore. You can catch the early warning signs and you know what you need to do to like take care of yourself too. So that's also part of the inner wisdom too.
Yeah. And that's a good reminder too, because my brain was like, yeah, the burnout, I've been there. I don't want to be there again. And
Yeah.
I'm operating from that side of it instead of, I know how it feels. I know how I got there now looking back. And that's why I am so strict with my boundaries now. And so, yeah, of course, I know what that feels like, and I'm going to catch that beforehand. Not, I know what that feels like, and I don't ever want to do it again.
Yeah.
That feels like a different shift. I know that doesn't sound very different, but it's a
It's a
shift
huge
in my
shift.
brain.
It's a huge shift. Like to be able to even get your brain to say like, hey, we can do big things and not burn out. Like I'm in the thick of that for my exercise journey. So where like the only exercise that I've primarily done has just been like ultra marathons and half Ironmans, like really intense endurance stuff.
Hmm.
But now it's like, and then I just stopped because I like burnt myself out. But then it's like getting back into the swing of it of like, how can I approach it? Because I need so much proprioceptive input for me personally to be able to feel balanced and regulated. So I know it's a priority, but just over the past like 4 months, really trying to find ways to make it more playful and curiosity based, and even like finding an amazing coach that I'm working with now that has really created the space to help me do that. So yeah, it's so funny how our brains can talk us out of doing things. And then once we convince our brains, like, no, we can be safe, we have the internal wisdom, and we're gonna let, like, exactly what you're doing. I'm gonna let the universe kind of show me and make connections for me and kind of guide me on my path, how everything just starts like falling into place.
Right.
The teachers show up.
Yes, yes. Here you
Yeah.
are.
Well, and also as you're talking, so I'm gonna introduce you to this amazing couple. They call themselves the Pinks. They're up in Quebec and a little town outside of Quebec. And they went to Art Basel in Miami. I think it was last year. And they just realized that they are truly artists and they wanted to open up an art space for the community because they realized how much art had been so healing for them. This past year, they opened up a space and it has been truly wild. Like how many people have come into their space. It's just in a little community that desperately needed some sort of like welcoming space. And so I'm going to introduce you to them because I think you could learn so much from them and
Yeah.
from their experience of like having a physical space and being a community hub. But their story is like absolutely incredible. So I think it would be
Awesome.
fun for you to meet them.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Yeah.
You're so welcome. So the cool thing is that after this, I had you do a body scan again to see where in your body the sensation may have moved or shifted, and you colored this coloring. And so the question was still, why am I feeling overwhelmed and stuck? But you said that the sensation moved in your stomach, that it was kind of higher, that it was cool and icy and this vapor feeling. And then you also said that you saw like the cool icy vapor feeling kind of like as your aura or like all around you. And that it definitely felt more light than the other sensation. So talk me through what you first colored on this page.
As I was sitting there, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to color the sensation because like images weren't coming up. And then as I was looking at the colors, it was just kind of this image popped into my head of like floating on an iceberg out in the middle of the ocean in the cold, um, just kind of curled up in the fetal position, like alone. Um, and so that's kind of what that is, like just a little, patch of ice floating out in the middle of nowhere and me curled up in the fetal position.
Okay. I love this. So when anytime that water appears, water just means like how comfortable you are expressing emotions and especially the emotions that you're currently feeling. Think of it more as like the feminine energy. Not, I mean, we all have feminine and masculine energy, but the feminine energy specifically is like the go with the flow, the more like intuitive, the more caring, the more loving, the more compassionate side. For this specifically, it's like there's this hopefulness, like the water around the iceberg represents like this optimism and sense of possibility around the future. It also is like resolution. So being able to dissolve tension between the conflicts and like the outstanding like sort of question marks that are in your head. That like working on this project and going down this path, no matter what it looks like it may not even turn into like a community center. It might look like something completely different, but whatever this path is basically uh, telling you to go down is more of like a hopeful, optimistic path that's going to bring you a lot of resolution and answer a lot of questions and just like a lot of inner peace. Ice specifically has to do with like breaking through barriers. For this, it's again a lot of hopefulness. So being able to break through the barriers that you're setting for yourself, or that, I mean, these are like generational barriers that may have like come down. What's interesting too is like, especially if the first coloring had a lot of orange in it, it primarily means that like what you're working on is like a very generational, like a generational belief or generational pattern that's kind of been brought down. What's interesting about like I mean, everyone has this. This is everyone's experience, where there's specific generational patterns that we are meant to break for that family line. and that
Right.
we can kind of be add a new data point in that family line of this is possible. And this is like your, whatever this path will kind of take you down, and that you're currently on and that you have been on for this, for your life, it really is kind of just setting you up to break these barriers and bring in more hope and peace. Would you say that the image of you or you in the fetal position, would you say it's more heavy or light?
Um, Maybe more heavy. It feels like when I was thinking of it, almost like a deep exhaustion, like just a I'm so exhausted and done kind of feeling. So heavy, more heavy in that area.
Yeah. So bodies, whenever we draw like ourselves, this is primarily like how we feel about ourselves or like our current feelings about ourselves. The gray has to do with anxiousness, and the anxiousness really is coming from like the uncertainty of everything, of having this really big vision that can make a big impact, but just having it be riddled with so much uncertainty. So there's like a lot of anxiousness around there. And that's kind of what's fueling the exhaustion is the uncertainty around it. There's also this sense of feeling lost and having like a big idea that feels like a burden. So the lost feeling is more coming from like, where do I even begin or start? Or how do I even make this thing a reality? The burden is like it's just like this sense of like I am a burden and my big ideas are burdens to others, which is
Mm.
so interesting that you have, and I see this a lot with a lot of my clients and even with some of my colorings too. Like if we ever grew up in a family dynamic or in a community to where it was more important to prioritize the needs and wants of others, especially the adults or the authority figures, then it just is kind of a ripe environment for us to feel like our needs, our wishes, our dreams are burdens, and that we should prioritize other people's wants and needs and dreams. How I would make sense of this is that the water that you're on is full of resolution and hope and optimism. Even the iceberg itself is more of like you're breaking through barriers and you're doing the thing. But there's still this tinge, and this is what I tell my clients when stuff like this comes up too.
Mm.
Like if there's ever a picture with so much hope and optimism and like you're going down, it's basically all signs are like you were on the path you were meant to be on, but there's still like some uncertainty. This is like the core belief that we have about ourselves that we're going to just be initiated in like every single time we do something bigger and become more of ourselves and create the life that we want. This is something that's always been we're going to be bump up against. But every time we bump up against it, it just view it as like our sign that we're on the right path. There's some beliefs and some trauma that we've that have like imprinted on us so significantly that it's kind of like an upward spiral to heal it. There's no like, and I'm preaching to a therapist, so you know
Yes.
this. So there's
There's no just
no like, and
straight line, magic wand. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So this is just kind of your body saying, hey, you're on the right
We're
path.
still doing this.
Mm-hmm. And
You
this is where,
are doing what you're supposed to do, and there's still work to do
yeah,
inside.
yeah. And the more work you
Mhm.
do, the more clarity you're going to get.
Right. Right. It's interesting how hopeful that picture feels when you kind of decipher it through that lens. Because as I was drawing it, I'm like, wow, even though I said light, like this feels very like isolating and, be by myself. But that's probably one of those patterns that like, as I'm saying that, that is one of those patterns that needs to break is I am not by myself. And if I would just like get up and look around on that little iceberg there, there probably is other people around or other support that I could have, but it's almost like in this drawing, I've just kind of given up. Like,
Mm,
oh, I'm just going to let that same pattern keep happening, and I'm just going to let everything else pass me by.
mm,
So, yeah. So, kind of hearing that through that lens of like, there is hope, you are doing the things. And this is just another thing along the line of things that
Yeah.
is going to be good once I look around and go, I don't need physical support because I have the support of knowing where I can go for resources.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of I've been working through recently with, especially with like in the somatic training, the some of those themes coming up for me as I'm doing the exercises, especially in training, is the support piece. Um, I tend to just say, yeah, like I'm going to be a burden. So I'll either assume I'm going to be a burden on somebody and not ask for support, or I'm asking the wrong people, almost in a way of knowing that, like, if they say no, or if they can't help, or won't help, or don't have the capacity, I can go, see, like, I'm not going to do this. And that goes along with that first drawing. Like, I'm not going to do this because I don't have the support. But in actuality, like, I don't, not that I don't need the support, but I have all in me what I need, and the support will come, the right people. And that's where that piece, like, I rely on the wrong people. I put my kind of my eggs right in with certain people, and I'm like, take care of them. But I don't need to do that. And they're the wrong people. They're people who shouldn't be taking care of them. So, like, I need to take more responsibility for that, and that internal knowledge that I can't, like, of course I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And of course there are the right people who will support this. And I've been going to the wrong people for that support.
Yeah. Isn't it so funny how we'll even take the actions of like choosing what people to support us, but like we choose the wrong people because we know we'll get off the hook.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Our brains are so, I love our brains and that they're also so frustrating at the same time, right? Of
Yes.
like it just wants to keep us alive. And so it's literally just being like, this is not safe, don't do it. But unless
Yeah.
we're able
Oh,
to
well,
clock
that
it.
person wouldn't do it, so you shouldn't.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This has been so enlightening. I have learned a bit of
Yes.
this.
Yes. So much more in depth than me winging it when I was kind of just, like I said, I was working ahead a little bit. But this, um, I really like how you just intertwined and really used the whole picture, and not just kind of those individual pieces and colors, but how the whole picture, how you kind of threaded that all together.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Coloring is like a story, especially if we do multiple pages to where it it's such a cool experience to see, like to work through some of the stuff. Like I truly believe that we needed to have this conversation before you could even get to this conversation
Yeah,
of like, this is what's happening, this is what I want you to acknowledge and see, and train your brain like this is what's happening so that you have the data to kind of connect the dots of like, oh, this is how all of this appears. For you to even get to this point of like, oh my gosh, like this is
yeah,
what's actually happening. And
yes,
like it doesn't have to be this way. And I can stand up on my little ice, like my chunk of ice, and see everyone else like on their icebergs and maybe even join other people's icebergs, or maybe if I wanted to like build a boat to like go somewhere warm, like you really have so many opportunities. But I think what's cool about having the multiple pages is that it talks to us in layers, and presents the information in such like a gentle way that it's like the way that we need it to be like, oh, okay, now I know what I need to do.
right, right. It's lifting the fog off of these pieces, and I feel this like fog in my head, and
Yeah.
I can't get past it. So that stuck feeling feels like I have no clarity. Feels like I can't produce thoughts. I think when we first started talking before you started recording, it's the I don't have the ability, the motivation, the whatever to make myself just do the thing, do the research, go find a room, go find a place to do this, get some final details down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all these little pieces, all these little parts have kind of started clearing that fog from my head to be able to have the clarity to get to this drawing to then go, oh, I can see what's going on.
Yeah, how cool. I think it's just gonna get, the fog's gonna feel like it's lifting even more too, because
Right.
more time passes and as you're able to like internalize everything and sort everything out. And when you keep doing the thing, when you keep kind of doing the baby steps or the small steps towards the big picture too.
Right. Right.
Just so exciting. I'm so excited for you.
Yes.
I love
This has been
this.
awesome.
Yeah, I agree. For all our listeners, thanks for listening in. If you are interested in teaching yourself how to do color mending, interpreting your own colorings and learning how to intuitively color to get answers and figure out what's keeping you stuck, you can get the coloring bet. So the coloring bet is a 21-day challenge that will teach you how to do this exact process for yourself. And if you're interested in getting on Color Me Psychic, go ahead and scan this QR code to schedule your session. But we'll see you all next time.